Hi everyone, we are group number 5 and we chose to do our project on the company Yelp. Our group is composed of Emily Miller, Heath Murdoch, and Melanie Garfield. So just an overview of Yelp. Most of you probably know what Yelp is. The purpose of Yelp was to connect people with great local businesses and provide a platform where users could post reviews and be able to communicate referrals through having internet access. So the products and service that Yelp provides, they offer a free website and also a mobile app to users where they can log on and post reviews about restaurants, retail stores, healthcare providers, etc. Yelp operates in over 30 countries, but over 90% of this traffic is strictly to the US. And one thing that Yelp does in order to drive additional traffic to their site is they rely on users' reviews of local businesses in order to gravitate more people to their site. Some quick stats about Yelp. As of 2018, 163 million reviews were listed on Yelp. And as you can see over here on the right with the rating distribution, 68% of Yelp users gave Yelp as a business a 4-star rating or better. So they've been doing really well. They're used all over the world, and most of their users choose to leave reviews through their mobile app rather than their website. So here we've provided some bar graphs of Yelp user demographics. We have the bar graph of age, education, and income. So just kind of a high overview. Most people who use Yelp are 35 to 54. They have a college education and they make 100,000 or more a year. So that just kind of gives you an overview of what users are attracted to Yelp. So Yelp was created in 2004 by two former PayPal employees, Jeremy and Russell. They originally came up with the idea when Jeremy was sick and needed to find a doctor. He wanted to find one that had high recommendations, but could not find a website online that provided this information. So that is how Yelp came to be. And they created a platform where people could provide these recommendations and referrals through the internet. So with all good companies also comes controversies. So some of the controversies that have come about with Yelp is people are worried that Yelp manipulates reviews in order to pressure businesses to advertise on their site. Others worry that the reviews are fake. Are these real people? Is this a platform for outrage and anger? So those are kind of the main controversies of Yelp. They don't want to see businesses be destroyed through angry reviews. So the Yelp technology, we already touched on this earlier. The two modes are the website and the mobile app. So the backend technology of Yelp, Yelp has utilized MySQL to produce the website since the beginning. So this is really nice because their data needs to be configurable, quick, and expandable. They currently run about 100 database servers. We thought this was cool because we've been learning about MySQL in class, so it was cool for us to be able to see it implemented in a real life company. So it's nice because Yelp likes to keep updating and implementing new features into their company.
Hello, I'm Melanie Garfield, and I will be starting with a discussion of the project scope. For this project, we are limiting the scope of the database to the core interactions that users have on the Yelp website and app. This includes posting and reading of reviews, checking into a business, and voting on a review. As we did research into the website, we uncovered a lot of functionality, including social interaction features and special options for businesses, but we've excluded those to allow us to focus on the core primary use cases. The first thing we did as part of our project was to create a conceptual model. We went through several iterations of our entity relationship diagram to ensure that we were capturing the core functionality of the website and app. There's a lot of data on the Yelp website, and sometimes it's hard to know at first which data is user-driven versus business-driven. A lot of business information on the site, such as whether the restaurant takes credit cards or delivers, is controlled by the business. We have tried to focus on the core data that general users can interact with. Our primary entities in this model are business, user, and review. A user can check into a business, post a review of a business, or vote on a review. For the business entity, we have basic information listed such as name, address, phone, and website address. The user entity contains general demographics information such as first name, last name, birth date, and email address. The Yelp website doesn't require users to put in their physical address. Just their zip code is needed to determine a user's location. There is a unary relationship type with users being able to be friends with other users, and we have that represented here with the isFriend relation. Review is a weak entity type because it needs to be associated to a business and user first in order to be created. A user account needs to be created in order for someone to write a review, and the business needs to be created for a user to write a review on that business. After we created the conceptual model, we worked on the logical model. One of the main things the model illustrates is how important the business and your user tables are. Nearly every other table in the model has a foreign key from one of these two tables. The review table is also important and plays a significant role as it drives the content that causes users to return to the site. Our largest table is the business table, and it contains 11 separate fields. This is unsurprising, as it is the foundation of our prioritized requirements and the application in general. The review table is the most dynamic table, taking foreign keys from both business and user tables. Several of the other tables were created to handle many-to-many relationship scenarios or multi-valued attributes. For example, a separate category table was created since businesses can belong to multiple categories. One thing to note is that we renamed the user entity to Yelper here. We decided to do this to avoid any potential errors or complications when creating a user table in Oracle, since user is a reserved word. And we felt that the term Yelper would accurately describe the user entity, as that is a term used for Yelp members. So in this slide, this represents an overview of all the different tables we created. We have the core tables of business, Yelper, and review. We also have other tables for votes on, isFriend, category, hours, and photo. So the first table we will go over is the business table. The business table is essential to the function of the app and website. The business ID is a foreign key to over 50% of the other tables. In this particular example, you can see a table populated with sample business data. There's a unique business ID, name, web address, menu address, phone, address 1 and 2, city, state, and zip. You can see here that Red Iguana, for example, has a separate menu website while the other businesses don't. And the Copper Onion has an address too, which represents their suite number, and the others don't have an address too. Now we'll move on to the Yelper table. The Yelper table represents the primary user of the app and website. The Yelper profile must exist in order for a review to be created. Here's an example of a populated Yelper table. We have a unique user ID, first name, last name, birth date, email, zip code, and password. The password in our model shows in clear text, but our assumption is that the value will be encrypted. Now I will turn the time over to Heath Murdoch to discuss the other tables.
Thanks, Melanie. I'll begin with the review table. Reviews are really the primary business function of Yelp, and as such, they're kind of the foundation of this app. This table is a derived table that comes from the user ID in the Yelper table and the business ID in the business table. You can see them both here as foreign keys. The review ID is the primary key in this table. Other attributes are votes, that comes from the votes on table, which will be discussed later. Stars, that's a 1 through 5 ranking of the business. Review date, and then the body text of the actual review. The next tables are category and hours. These tables contain multivariable attributes of the business table. What that means is that a business can have different hours depending on the day of the week, whether it's a weekend or a Wednesday. A business can also have different categories that it falls under. You can have a casual Mexican restaurant. Those are 3 different categories applying to one business. Those categories link back to the business via the business ID as a foreign key. As you can see here in this example, one business ID can link to multiple different categories or hours sets. The checks-in table is similar to the review table in that it takes foreign keys from the business and Yelper tables in the form of business ID and user ID, respectively. You can see the rest of the columns here. The check-in ID is the primary key. Check-in comment and check-in date are the other 2 attributes here. The primary function of this feature is to lend credibility to users who are writing reviews. If a user has many check-ins at a certain restaurant, then the review of that restaurant will hold more weight than someone who doesn't. The votes on table is the primary way that users interact with reviews once they've been written. A user reads a review and then ranks it as funny, cool, and useful on scales of 1 to 5. The votes on table is also a derived table, much like the review table was. It takes the user ID and the review ID as foreign keys. Without a user ID, this table can't exist, and without a review ID, this table can't exist. The photo table is much like the hours and category tables that were discussed earlier. It's a table that stores a multivariable attribute for the review table. Users post their reviews and will often post photos along with their reviews. Just like the hours and category tables, the review ID here can correspond to multiple photo descriptions. The final slide is the future ideas for Yelp. Most, if not all, of these ideas are already implemented into Yelp's current app, but they were beyond the scope of this project for us. Some of them, like advertisements or sponsored reviews, would have been a relatively simple implementation to our current database model. They would have just needed a few more tables or a few more fields added onto our existing tables. Others, like review analytics or delivery service integration, would have been a little beyond the scope of this course, so we did not try to tackle that. Overall, we found Yelp to be a very interesting company that uses data as the primary driver and product of their business. It was very interesting to see how we could take a global, complex business like Yelp and break down what they were doing into a very simple and clean database model. And I think that was really the point of this project, was to teach us that although these companies are very complex and deal with vast amounts of data, good foundational database design is at the core of everything that they do.